In the mid-90s, California was choking on smog. General Motors promised a revolution, delivering a car so far ahead of its time, it terrified the entire automotive establishment. This wasn't a golf cart. The EV1 was a sleek, fully electric marvel of engineering. But just a few years later, almost every single one was aggressively hunted down. They weren't just recalled, they were forcefully seized from devoted owners, shipped to secret desert facilities, and brutally crushed into scrap metal under the cover of night. How did a beloved technological masterpiece become the target of an organized corporate assassination? This is the dark history of the car Big Oil couldn't allow to exist. To understand the betrayal, you have to witness the breakthrough. General Motors invested over $1 billion, building an electric vehicle from the ground up with unprecedented passion. It was an aerodynamic masterpiece. The teardrop shape sliced through the air with less resistance than a modern supercar, completely redefining automotive efficiency standards for a new era. Underneath the hood lay a massive battery pack and an advanced electric drivetrain. It delivered instant torque, terrifying acceleration, and an entirely silent, unbelievably smooth driving experience. The early lead-acid batteries were heavy, but they provided enough range for the average commuter. Later nickel-metal hydride upgrades pushed the range even further, proving the concept worked flawlessly. Drivers didn't just like the EV1, they worshipped it. Celebrities and tech elites practically begged GM to build more, creating a massive cultural phenomenon across Los Angeles. The car was exclusively available through a lease program. GM claimed this was to protect consumers from experimental technology, but it secretly guaranteed they retained absolute ownership. The real catalyst was California's radical zero-emission vehicle mandate. It legally forced massive automakers to produce electric cars if they wanted to sell anything in the state. Suddenly, the electric future wasn't just a concept, it was a legally binding reality. The EV1 proved that zero-emission transportation was entirely viable, scaling rapidly across the coast. Charging stations began popping up across California. Infrastructure was slowly but surely adapting. The dream of uncoupling the American economy from fossil fuels felt remarkably close to reality. But behind closed doors, a massive corporate war was brewing. The oil industry watched in sheer terror as a car with no gas tank captured the public's imagination. A completely electric fleet meant no oil changes, no spark plugs, and zero trips to the gas station. It threatened to obliterate the most profitable business model on Earth. Quietly, powerful lobbying groups began spending millions to flood the media with anti-electric propaganda, convincing the public that the electric grid would completely collapse under the pressure. Automakers joined the fight, furiously suing the state of California in federal court. They argued the mandate was an illegal overreach that would bankrupt the American manufacturing sector. The relentless pressure worked. In 2003, California buckled, gutting the zero-emission mandate. The legal obligation to build electric cars was entirely erased overnight. The moment the mandate died, General Motors made a shocking, highly controversial decision. They abruptly canceled the entire EV1 program, refusing to renew a single customer lease. Devoted drivers offered to buy the cars outright, presenting blank checks to GM executives. They organized rallies and staged passionate protests, desperately begging to keep their beloved vehicles. But General Motors refused every single offer. They dispatched transport trucks under the cover of darkness, physically confiscating the electric cars straight from their outraged customers' driveways. The rationale was liability and a lack of profitability. But the brutal execution felt deeply sinister, like a deliberate effort to erase the technology from the public consciousness. The confiscated vehicles were transported to a heavily guarded testing ground in the Arizona desert. What happened next remains one of the darkest days in clean energy history. A fleet of heavy industrial crushers was brought in. One by one, the aerodynamic masterpieces were violently compacted into unrecognizable cubes of twisted aluminum and shattered glass. By the end of the year, almost the entire fleet was completely annihilated. The crushing of the EV1 became the ultimate symbol of corporate greed and technological suppression. A few surviving models were deactivated and donated to museums, completely neutered to ensure they would never drive on public roads again. The electric dream was forcefully put to sleep. The traditional auto industry eagerly returned to building massive gas-guzzling SUVs, intentionally delaying the global transition to sustainable clean energy by nearly 2 crucial, irreversible decades. But the engineers who built the EV1 never forgot. That underlying technology and the suppressed passion eventually sparked a new wave of disruptive Silicon Valley startups years later. The EV1 didn't truly die in that desert. It became a powerful martyr. It proved the technology was possible, laying the foundation for the modern electric revolution we see today. Today, the clean tech revolution is unstoppable. If you work in solar and want to track, analyze, and optimize real project performance without the guesswork, the Bayes app link is below.